Jake had a rough start to his night. After storming out of his apartment following an argument with his girlfriend, he was in no mood to deal with anyone. All he wanted was to finish his late shift driving his cab, make some easy money and go home. As he cruised through the streets, the cold night air pressed against the windows. He noticed a woman standing alone at the curb, waving for a ride. She looked cold, huddling in her coat, shivering under a dim streetlight. Jake slowed for a moment, then shook his head and hit the gas. "No time for freeloaders," he muttered. "Probably wouldn't pay me much anyway." Later, his phone buzzed with a new ride request, from a wealthy part of town. Jake smiled to himself, confident that this was the type of fare he had been waiting for. He pulled up to the pickup location, an eerily quiet, well-lit street. He waited, checked his phone and scanned the surroundings, but no one was in sight. Suddenly, the rear door of the cab swung open. Jake jumped in his seat, startled. He looked into the rearview mirror, trying to catch a glimpse of the passenger, but the back seat was cloaked in shadows. He could barely make out any features. "Thanks for coming," the passenger whispered softly, the voice unsettlingly calm. Jake shrugged off the odd feeling creeping up his spine and pulled away from the curb, thinking it was just another quiet ride. But as he drove, the temperature inside the cab began to drop. The heater was on, yet he could see his own breath misting in the cold air. He reached over to adjust the radio, but it flickered to life on its own, crackling with static. Then a strange song began playing, an old, distorted tune Jake didn't recognize. He rubbed his arms to warm himself, glancing nervously in the mirror. Still, the passenger remained hidden in the shadows. "That's odd," Jake muttered. "Weird night." Then the voice came again, quiet but piercing. "Do you know what it feels like, Jake? To be left behind." His heart skipped a beat. Jake's knuckles whitened as he gripped the wheel tighter. His mind raced back to the woman he had ignored earlier, left standing in the cold. That was you," he stammered, his voice cracking. Without warning, the GPS rerouted, guiding him down an unfamiliar dark road. Jake followed the new path instinctively, but every turn seemed to lead him in circles, back to the same empty street. The same streetlight, the same shadows, the same cold. The voice whispered again. "Now you know how it feels, Jake. Lost, forgotten. With no way home." Panic surged through him. He slammed the brakes and bolted from the cab, gasping for breath. When he peered into the back seat, his heart raced. It was empty. Shaking, Jake grabbed his wallet, pulling out all the cash he had. He threw it into the back seat, desperation in his voice. "I'm sorry. Please just let me go." The radio hissed and sputtered with one last message. "Kindness costs nothing, Jake. But ignorance always demands payment." Suddenly, the car hummed back to life. The GPS flickered, displaying his usual route, as if nothing had happened. With a shudder of relief, Jake slid back into the driver's seat and continued the drive home. The streets were normal now, the air warm again. The next night, Jake found himself driving along the same route. This time, as he approached the same street corner, another stranger stood by the curb, hand raised, waiting for a ride. Without hesitation, Jake pulled over and rolled down the window, offering a kind smile. "Hop in," he said. And with that, Jake drove into the night, carrying with him the weight and wisdom of a lesson well learned.